stories from around the corner
and around the country.
You're listening to All the Best.
Proudly supported by the Art Gallery of New South Wales.
You're listening to All the Best from FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Kwame Slusher. For June, we are celebrating Queerstories. But before we get into this week's stories, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we're recording from stolen and Gadigal land, and pay my respect to Gadigal elders past and present, and also recognize that the area where FBI Radio is situated, Redfern, has long been a place of storytelling, strength, resistance, and resilience for First Nations communities. It's June! Happy Pride Month! So for the next couple of episodes, we'll be showcasing some queer audio stories. This week, we're tackling the binary and exploring gender identity. How do you see yourself? How are you seen by others? And how do you want to be seen? It's been a while since I've been in high school, but I can still remember the pressure to fit in. And peer pressure made me do some pretty stupid things, like pretending to follow sports, laughing at jokes that I really didn't think were funny, and hiding the fact that I love to read, so much so, in fact, that I left my books at home. In our first story, Nico takes us back to high school and asks, "How far would you go to sit with the boys?" And a warning, there are swear words in this story.
As a queer boy who grew up in Western Sydney and was bullied at school, how far would you have gone to fit in with that crowd? What would you have sacrificed? I present to you a little story about a time I was so desperate to fit in that I would have done anything to impress the boys. And let's just say, it didn't work out so great. My schooling life wasn't always easy. I was a dancer and I was very effeminate. The combination of these two things made growing up in the rough suburbia of Western Sydney, aka Da area, scary as fuck. I never had any male friends, and after years of bullying, I'd eventually had enough. I thought a change of scenery was in order. So, in my senior years, I auditioned to be in the dance program at a new school, a sporting high school, because that was a good idea. In my first few months settling in, the only difference I noticed about this school was that they preferred the word fag to puff, and that cricketers were really good at pegging apples at me from across the playing field.
Oi, fag!
At this point, I was desperate, and I'd do anything to fit in. So I stopped using my mum's Go Fresh pomegranate deodorant and went and got myself Lynx Africa. It was time to change everything about me. Now that I smelt like a mad it was time to start talking like one too. Oh my god, bro, how are you? What's happening, cuz? I mastered my role, and it actually started working. I still remember one of the first moments I felt acknowledged for my stellar performance as a bro. A guy came up to me, looked straight at me and said,
"Hey Nick bro, do you smoke?"
This was my in.
Yeah bro, I smoke.
But I didn't.
Well, don't go Marsden, cuz. Come to the alleyway with the boys. I got a fresh deck.
I was shit scared, but I obliged.
Bro, Nick reckons he's smoked before, cuz. How is it, bud? Do you like it?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's mad. One of the boys in this group eventually became my best mate. He was also in the dance program. Let's call him Michael. And he acted as a guide for how to maintain your status as a bro without getting bashed for being in the dance program for dummies.
Bro, when those call you a fag, you got to defend yourself.
I took every bit of advice he gave me as straight religion. Like, 3-in-1 shampoo is not really 3-in-1. It's 5-in-1. Shampoo, condition, body wash, foreskin, and lube. One day, Michael and I were sitting with two of the girls in our ensemble and got on the topic of body hair removal.
Bro, you gotta start with scissors. Get the hair short, then go razor.
As a southern Italian boy, I had enough hair on my body that I could have been cast in Teen Wolf.
What a hairy Bro, what is this, Planet of the Apes?
Fast forward to the 25th of April 2010. I'm dancing in the shower, and when I finish, I shake all the water off of my body hair, like a dog. I step out of the shower, and I see them. The pair of kitchen scissors sitting on the vanity. I still to this day don't understand why there were kitchen scissors in the bathroom, but some things in an Italian household we should never question. Nevertheless, in that moment, it hit me. That seed that was planted a few weeks earlier had grown into a bush, and that bush needed trimming. I dry my body, focusing mainly on my genital region. I wanted to get the hair nice and fluffy and statically standing on end for the big chop. I walk over to the toilet and I straddle the bowl like I know exactly what I'm doing.
Don't call my name, Alejandro.
Oh yeah, I am so one of the boys, trimming my pubes while singing Lady Gaga.
Don't wanna kiss, don't wanna touch, just want my cigarette and oh.
Staring back at me from the toilet seat, a chunk of nutsack skin. Clutching toilet paper against my crotch, I grab my phone, and in the moment of panic, the first person I call is Michael.
How you doing, cuz?
Hey man, I'm kind of freaking out. I had an accident.
What's going on, bro? You got your period?
Nah, I was trying to,
Bro, what happened?
remember how you were talking about, shaving at regional festival and you said use scissors? Well, I cut myself. I cut my nuts and I'm bleeding. I think I should go to the doctor. Where are you right now? Can you, pick me up, please?
Bro, what the fuck? Seriously, cuz 5 minutes ago, literally I was driving past your house. I would have picked you up.
Oh.
I'm practically home now.
Okay.
Such a dumb guy.
Okay.
I hung up on his laughter, thankful for my newfound male support system. Okay, so I'm still in the bathroom watching my future gay babies drain from my sack and trying to think of some sort of solution.
Activate critical brain power.
I grab the kitchen scissors and run to my bedroom with half a roll of toilet paper pushed up against my nuts. I open my undie drawer and I pull out a pair of boxer briefs. I cut the elastic and I snip off the sides until all that was left was the ball cuppy part with long strands either side. I fed one part of the excess material through my arse cheeks, tying the other side of it at my hip. Yes, I had made myself a makeshift ball sling. Then I sit on the lounge with my legs apart in a very filled out pair of school shorts, waiting for my mum to come home. It was like wearing an adult-sized nappy, except my balls were stinging to the high heavens. Mum takes one look at me.
You look funny. What's wrong?
I cut myself.
Okay. Where?
Do I have to tell you? I simultaneously eye roll and gesture to my pubic region.
Huh?
She looks like she's seen the Pope's ghost, but she takes me to the doctor's where I'm told to drop my pants and explain.
Ah, okay.
I remember the doctor looking at me with his head cocked, excuse the pun, sideways and asking the one-word question.
Why?
I just shrugged and laid down on the bed while he popped on his gloves. He brings over a little eyedropper-like tube with clear liquid in it. Am I going to need stitches?
Kind of. This is like liquid stitches. This is gonna sting a bit.
I walk out of that doctor's office with a giant adhesive patch over the two sections of ball sack that he literally superglued back together. I thought the worst was over, but when I wake up the next morning, something feels a little odd. I throw the covers off me and a section of my undies were red. The entire adhesive patch had filled with blood.
Mom!
No school, and back to the doctors we went. This time, we saw a nurse.
Nicola Bruni?
Bruni.
Oh, I was looking for a girl. Come on in, love.
The second I pull my pants down, she says at the top of her voice,
Ugh, what's he done?
referring to the doctor's imbecility, of course.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry, but this adhesive patch is going to have to come right off.
To this day, you can still see the fingernail marks I left behind in the plywood, trying not to scream with every rip.
No, Kelly Clarkson!
Tears streamed down my face, but in the end, I got what I wanted, a hairless and silky smooth set of baubles. She stitches me up and I waddle out of that nurse's room without making eye contact with anybody. The next day at school, the boys see me approaching.
Oi, Nick, where the you been, cuz? Come sit with us.
And there it was, the invitation that I had been waiting for. I walk over to the silver seat and begin to bend my knees, but then I felt the stitches separate.
Bro, what the are you doing? Sit the fuck down, are you in the head?
I stand back up, pain with pain in both my nuts and my heart, and say,
I can't sit with you.
So, how far would you go to be able to sit with the boys? What would you have sacrificed? Personally, I'd give my left nut.
You're listening to All the Best at FBI Radio 94.5. I'm Kwame Slusher, and that story was produced by Nico Bruni. It was originally developed for Maeve Marsden's Queerstories in collaboration with Western Sydney University. Our second story challenges the gender binary. Danny takes us on their journey of gender identity and gender affirmation. A warning: this episode mentions gender dysphoria.
I suppose I started thinking about my gender from when I was younger, but all that kind of looked like was more people just thinking like I'm a tomboy, I don't like particularly feminine things, and it wasn't until I got to the end of high school where I started finding the language and the words to kind of explain that it's just more than just being into more masculine things or not being particularly feminine as people would expect me to be. I realized it was more than just simply having a different expression when I started seeing these YouTube videos pop up that were like other trans people explaining their own sort of experience, and I remember thinking like that is exactly what I would explain it as, but I didn't know how to, and completely relating to that and thinking of my gender and realizing how much I didn't feel female in my brain just did not compute. I'd never heard the word trans before growing up, and so somehow I came across these YouTube videos of people like explaining the word trans and non-binary and all these different things that I just related so completely to, and that was when I sort of seriously started exploring that for myself. After I kind of started exploring these things more seriously, I ended up starting coming to Jets, particularly Rainbow Space, and finding other people that had similar experiences to me, were the same age as me, and it had this really open and safe place to kind of just explore that for myself and not feel like people are going to try and invalidate that or reject it or tell me that I'm wrong. I originally started straight out of high school in nursing, and it wasn't for me, but throughout that process and then realizing that I was really more into youth work was kind of like happening at the same time that I was trying to discover my identity, and I kind of discovered that I wanted to help create or be that safe place for other young people trying to discover theirs. It was after I had left high school that I was able to experiment with different pronouns, which I only exclusively used at Jets to start with. And then as I became more confident in that and more sure that I was able to sort of start using that, in high school, they had not even changed the uniform dress code to allow for people to wear what they felt most comfortable in. It was very gendered and separated, which was extremely uncomfortable. Say, I wanted to wear like shorts and pants more, but because I was a female at that point, I was not allowed, and exclusively dresses and skirts or pants that were different. They tried to like feminize them. So I didn't really feel comfortable. I knew I wanted to wear a different uniform, but the school didn't really allow that. So between that and other people really putting the pressure to be more feminine as I like grew up being a teenager, I sort of gave into that pretty much all through high school and just wore dresses, tried to wear makeup and like let my hair be long. I hated it, but it was kind of making everyone else comfortable and happy and trying not to rock the boat. There weren't really any openly trans or gender diverse people in high school when I was there until I was almost finished year 12, and that was the time when they had just started having what they called the standout group, which was for LGBTQ plus students. But it was very, very new, and a lot of them were quite a bit younger than me, which was kind of weird because I felt like I should be more of a role model, yet they were so much further along in their journey than maybe I was. I feel like prior to coming out, I had a lot of coming out to myself first. So when I'd kind of accepted and like was more sure in this is who I am, I was supported to go and get my first haircut, which was way more impactful than I ever thought something as simple as a haircut could be. My hair was so long and so much a part of how people saw me as female, and I would often just use it to kind of hide behind. I hated it. I didn't really care about it. And then I got that haircut and I was like so overcome with emotion that it was like, this is so, for me, tied in with how I express my own gender. And then from then, I started more and more changing up my wardrobe, expressing myself in a more androgynous or masculine way as I felt more comfortable. And then I sort of tested the waters by coming out to a few people that I knew were safe. So I had one or two friends that were openly queer, and some of them surprised me by literally being like, yeah, we kind of already guessed that, which was surprising to me because I didn't even really know it for myself for such a long time, and I didn't think it was that obvious. I was like really nervous to come out to people that had been in my life for a long time. I was using they, them pronouns in like exclusively queer spaces at Jets. It was like more of a minority of situations for me at that point, and then I changed my name. But that became complicated because I was trying to keep track of to who I was out to or not. And then once I had become very solid, it was like way too stressful to try and keep it from certain people, and like what if they found out. So once I had moved out of my family situation, I felt more of a safer distance from it, that if something bad happened, then I wouldn't be kind of stuck in that. So in October 2020, I came out over text to my family members, and then about a week later on National Coming Out Day, I made like a big Facebook post, changed my name, and so it became a minority of spaces that I was out to a majority, which was insane to me. Initially, it was a lot of pretty accepting, like positive responses to my post and my messages, especially on Facebook, it was incredibly overwhelming, as there were a lot more people that were quite accepting of it and encouraging and supportive. In my family, for the most part, there was a bit of an adjustment period, because for the first 21 years of my life, I was known as one name and seen in some way, and then now they've had to adjust that. But for the most part, most of them have been pretty good, with the exception of one or two who even now still kind of think it's a phase, or like I was disrespectful in changing my name, or haven't really changed their language, consistently either dead naming me or avoiding using my current name and just very feminine terms when referring to me. For some people, the change can be hard, or if they don't understand it, then they're not gonna, which is kind of why I hope awareness and representation can hopefully normalise the conversations a bit more and help people understand it. There definitely has been an improvement in media representation and having transgender issues brought to the forefront. There's still definitely a lot of things that need addressing or improvement or change, but even just a whole bunch of celebrities in the spotlight coming out as trans or gender diverse has really sort of helped people understand like how to use they them pronouns more, or that there's more than like one way to be trans, and normalizing the different experiences that people have rather than kind of just the binary trans experience, which was kind of what was more what people thought of when they heard the word transgender. December last year, I first started going on hormones, and I was surprised at how much more like myself I feel in that, because I was so on the fence. I had all these people telling me that you're going to regret it, it's not reversible, it's like such a big decision, you need to think about it. So I was so nervous doing it. Those voices got in my head being like, what if this is just something that I made up, or, which obviously it isn't, but particularly having things like my voice change and coming across not quite so much as female has been really affirming and exciting process. Legally changing my name, also exciting, incredibly stressful, because they don't make it easy. There's a lot of paperwork and things people have to sign and waiting and applications. And then once you get the birth certificate changed, then you have to change everywhere else individually. Getting to certain places and realising you haven't legally changed your name there, and people getting confused and maybe mistakenly dead naming you. Now I'm at the point where pretty much, with the exception of one or two places, having legally changed my name nearly everywhere, it's become a lot less of the dead naming unless people knew me before, which has been nice. On one part, I can see it from their point of view because it's an accident, like maybe they don't know. But if they do it purposely, or even when it does happen, it just feels like kind of like a slap in the face. It just affirms that I did the right thing and I am who I am, and that is not me. Whilst it was a very vulnerable and exposing and challenging process, I definitely wouldn't change it, because it's been very freeing, and just having that room for exploration and being able to express myself way more freely and feel like I'm more myself than I ever was. Another more challenging part, or the things that I think the system needs to work on, is just access, not just normalising trans and gender diverse experiences and specific services for those people, because it's very under-resourced, but things like gender affirming treatment. There's extremely long waiting lists to even get hormones, let alone things like binders or surgery. Particularly for myself, wanting to get top surgery as part of like the last big chunk of my medical transition, and the fact that the government counts it as elective surgery, therefore not covered by Medicare, making people either have to wait many, many years to save up or spend all of their money because it's upwards of $8,000, really plays on trans people's like mental health, worsens their gender dysphoria, and just makes that already difficult experience that much more difficult.
That was produced by Duncan Stephen, and the sound design by Persephone Waxman. If you enjoyed this episode, you can listen to all the best for unique stories from independent audio makers from so-called Sydney and around the country. Catch our live broadcast on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. on FBI Radio 94.5. Listen to our podcast Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on allthebestradio.com, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Follow us now so you never miss an episode. All the Best would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we make these stories and pay our respects to elders past and present. All the Best is made at FBI Radio on Gadigal land, in association with SYN and 3RRR on Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung and Boon Wurrung lands, and ACCC on Arrente and Wurumungu lands. The All the Best editorial producer is Mel Bakewell, and Phoebe Adler-Ryan is our executive producer. Patrick McKenzie is our community coordinator, and thanks to all the volunteers who make All the Best possible. Shining Bird composed our theme music, and Annie Hamilton designed the artwork. We're heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network, and were made possible by the Art Gallery of New South Wales and the Community Broadcasting Foundation. You can find our full archive of more than 600 episodes at allthebestradio.com. I'm Kwame Slusher. Thanks for listening.